So a little over 3,000 years ago, the Jewish people were slaves in Egypt, and they were really badly oppressed. But they didn't start that way. It actually started with this one family of 12 boys, where some of the sons wanted to kill their younger brother, but he ended up getting sold into slavery in Egypt instead. Huge family drama. Anyways, God actually used that younger brother that got sold into slavery to save his family and all of the Egyptians from starving to death. And then he forgave his brothers, and they moved in with him in Egypt. They had kids who had kids who had kids. And then that first generation died. And then a new pharaoh, new king of Egypt, came into power. And all he saw was this huge mess of foreigners living in his land. So he talks with his people and is like, there are just too many of these people. We have to do something about this. What if there's a war and they fight against us? What do we do then? So the Egyptians forced the Jewish people to become slaves, and they worked them really, really hard. But the Jewish people just keep having more kids. There just keeps being more of them. So Pharaoh calls the Jewish midwives to him, and it's like, look, when you help the Jewish women give birth, if they give birth to a boy, kill him. Midwives go back, but they don't listen to Pharaoh because they respect God. Calls them to him again. It's like, what are you doing? Why aren't you killing the boys? The midwives are like, not our fault. Jewish women, not like Egyptian women. Jewish women just give birth before we get there. So God is good to these midwives because they respect him. And he gives them families of their own. But Pharaoh tells his people, every Jewish newborn boy, drown him in the Nile River. But one Jewish mom manages to hide her baby for 3 months. And then she can't keep hiding a baby. So she makes a basket that'll float, and she puts her child inside of it. And she puts the basket with her baby inside of it in the Nile River. And it sits there in the reeds by the river's edge until the Egyptian princess sees it. She looks inside. There's a crying baby. And she's like, oh, this is one of the Jewish babies. But she decides to keep him anyways. She names him Moses, adopts him as her own son, and he grows up in Pharaoh's court until one day, when he's about 40 years old, he goes to check out what's happening to his Jewish brothers and sisters. And he sees a slave master beating a fellow Jew, and he looks around, doesn't see anyone, kills that slave master. And then he gets scared that he's going to get killed, so he runs away to a neighboring area. Gets married, settles down, has kids, starts taking care of sheep. And meanwhile, back in Egypt, that pharaoh dies and a new pharaoh comes into power. And the Jewish people are crying and they're begging God to save them. And God hears them.